Ashdown Forest is about 35 miles southeast of Hyde Park Corner, slap in the middle of East Sussex and the High Weald area of outstanding natural beauty.
Ashdown Forest was named probably in the medieval period, we don't know exactly when, and forest at that time had nothing to do with trees or woodland. Forest actually meant land that was under forest law, which was a particularly rigorous and unpleasant kind of legal system designed to protect the king's deer. And so forest at that period was more or less a wilderness and was used as a hunting area, as a deer hunting area. The heathland on the forest is here because of the geology. 700 feet of sandstone underneath the surface of the forest, and obviously from sandstone geology you get sandy soils which are acid, they're free draining, they're low in nutrients, and that's why heathland develops over those kind of soils. And we know that heathlands at the moment are only here because they are protected by the activities of man. So the commoners for the last 700 years have cut firewood, collected bracken, dug peat, grazed animals, all those kinds of things which would actually have favoured heathland. The visitor that comes to Ashdown for the first time, I think initially they'll be very surprised that such a landscape exists within 40 miles of London. You definitely get, in the right place, you definitely get an impression of being in the uplands. So you could be in Scotland, you could be on the North Yorkshire moors. And what the people are going to see are big skies, wide landscapes. In some areas the vegetation will be dominated by heather, in other areas it won't. It will be aster grassland or even still large areas of bracken. The visitors that are coming to look for birds, probably the most easily identifiable kind of semi-heathland specialist is the stonechat, which is very obliging because it sits on the top of particularly the gorse, makes a very distinctive noise which sounds like two pebbles slapping together, and it's a very attractive little bird.
The Dartford warbler, very characteristic, in fact the bird that's given the forest its national and international protection. In the summer, the nightjars, the sound of them churring away is characteristic of the forest. And amongst the heather itself, masses of adders, slow worms, common lizards, and even smaller amongst the insects. Heathland is the best habitat for spiders in Britain, more than 500 species. Characteristic butterflies such as the silver-studded blue, a whole suite of things which without heathland simply wouldn't be around.
The forest is managed by a board of conservators who were first set up in 1885 under enclosure legislation, and they were set up to regulate the forest, as it was called, and their main duties there were to protect the rights of the commoners. Nowadays obviously that is not an issue. People who actually practice their common rights are very few, and the conservators have a much more of a conservation and amenity role.
Well, whilst the conservators are the sort of trustees, the policy setters of the forest, we as the staff of course have to affect those policies, carry them out. Our main role, I suppose, is trying to get the balance of managing the forest right for both wildlife and people's enjoyments. People like the forest from a number of different perspectives. We know that internationally lots of people like the forest for the sorts of reasons that we can see around here, the association with Winnie the Pooh. The people who come here now, the local visitors from further afield in Britain, I think appreciate the forest as a little microcosm of wilderness. Its openness, the heathland itself, I think, echoes the wilder parts of northern and western Britain. And if you go onto the hilltops of the forest, you have the most magnificent views of the North and the South Downs. But for me, the forest really hits its peak in August, when all the heathers are in flower, and the place is buzzing with bees, and the forest is looking absolutely fantastic. So you've got the wilderness, the colour, the openness, put those two together in crowded southeast England, and I think you've got a fairly magic combination.